Hello and welcome to In the Picture, your source for movie review, discussion, and recommendation. I'm your host, Preston Fossbeck, and joining me as always are Awesome Shane Jones,
Hello.
and Miles Carden.
Hey, everyone.
This week we're going to be reviewing the cinematic opus, Red Sparrow, directed by Francis Lawrence, starring Jennifer Lawrence and Joel Edgerton. If you don't know what this movie's about, just go watch the trailer because we don't really know how to put it into a synopsis for you.
It's an espionage spy thriller with Russians and Americans.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, I guess. And new Jennifer Lawrence. Shane, what are your thoughts on Red Sparrow overall?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking to go to a spy thriller kind of movie that's more or less along the lines of Atomic Blonde, except for less stylized and entertaining, go ahead and go see this boring movie. Yeah, about half an hour into the movie actually gets started, and it doesn't really pick up the pace from there. I mean, there's stuff going on, and it's trying to be more smart than it actually is, but it doesn't quite ever get to that point. Yeah, I don't really know quite what else to say about it. Miles?
Okay. I absolutely loved the first 5 minutes of this movie.
I'm going to have to agree with you. I thought the first 5 minutes were fantastic.
Like, I mean, I'm going to get, like, technical kind of here with some terms, but, like, so you have two main characters. You have Jennifer Lawrence, you have Joel Edgerton. Lawrence,
Is it Egerton? Is that how you pronounce it?
I don't know.
All right, I won't worry about it.
That guy from Star Wars.
I'm probably saying it
Bright.
wrong. Anyways, so you got this guy and this girl. So Jennifer Lawrence is this Red Sparrow. Well, she's not a Red Sparrow yet. She's a ballerina who's well connected.
She's a black swan who becomes a Red Sparrow.
But basically, you have these two main characters who have not yet been introduced. And so at the beginning, it's kind of cross-cutting between the two. And it's like, and it's cut in a way, it's kind of like she looks one, to her right. And then it cuts to Joel's character, and, he's in a room and he's looking to the left. So it kind of like looks like, they're interacting with each other, except they're in two completely different locations. And then there's like a bunch of other stuff going on, like where there's like match cuts, like where she's in the ballet and like there's all these people running, and then he's, chasing somebody or getting chased, and running. So there's actually some really good filmmaking in the
So if you want to see some symmetry
there's generally some
and
really
match
good
cuts, this is the film for you.
There's good filmmaking happening in these first 5 minutes, and I'm like, oh, I might actually enjoy this. Like, this is going to be an exciting spy thriller, and people are, just, I don't know. I thought I was going to enjoy it, and then the rest of the movie happens, and I was literally struggling not to fall asleep, and I don't know. It's just like I didn't really care about anybody, and like any of the characters. The scenes just dragged on. It felt like I was watching a 3-hour movie. I don't know what the runtime was, but
like 2 hours and 15 minutes or something like that.
it
Yeah,
felt
at least.
way longer than it actually was. And by the time you got to the ending, which I thought had some interesting and unexpected things going on, like in the final 5 to 10 minutes, it just wasn't worth what it took to get to that point. So ultimately,
Yeah, I totally agree with Miles. First 5 minutes were pretty gripping from my perspective, and then, yeah, the rest of the movie happened. There are lines of dialogue and scenes where people talk to each other in this movie that literally made me want to cry. Like, the acting and the timing of the people's speech was just atrocious and very cringy. There are other scenes that are cringy for different reasons, and there are other scenes that are cringy in a good way, but, who cares about those because you had to sit through all that cringy bad shit. So, yeah, not a fan. This movie literally made me sick. I came out of the theater and I felt like shit. I still feel bad. But, yeah, I don't know. I guess
Was it the movie or was it the popcorn?
It could have been either, but the movie did not help. I will tell you that. Yeah.
I mean, was there any other redeeming qualities in this? Like,
the cinematography's pretty good.
I didn't hate Jennifer Lawrence for once.
Yeah, I thought Jennifer Lawrence and Joel Edgerton were probably the best parts of this movie. Unfortunately, the shit that they have to say and do sometimes is boring and sometimes doesn't make sense.
I mean, if you think about it, this movie is about spies, and basic, kind of like double crossing and assassinations and all this stuff that's going on. There's no excuse like not to be exciting.
Yeah, but all that stuff adds up to about 15 minutes of the movie.
So I was just kind of puzzled on like how they could get it so wrong. It's
because I mean, this director's obviously made good films, and there are like pieces there that just seem to have been neglected or not finished or something. No one with a critical eye like looked at some of these scenes and was like, yeah, this doesn't really play the way we think it's playing. Especially the stuff in the seduction school. I thought like every scene in there was just horrible. And people are like crying and all this stuff for reasons
well, that's a pivotal point. I mean, we won't get too much in detail because we don't want to spoil it in case anyone's hell-bent on seeing this or wants to watch it when it comes out in video. But I mean, there's the character is really important, and there's kind of in good movies like you can see how a character progresses like naturally. This didn't really feel like a natural progression. It's more like a jump. It was like, oh, here she is now. Oh, and now she's here. Oh, and now she's here. And it just didn't feel natural. It was like I didn't think the setups to get from point A to point B were convincing enough. And so that kind of took me out of it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just kind of on the page that I feel like I've seen this movie 100 times before, whether it was like Atomic Blonde or those quick flashback scenes in Age of Ultron of Scarlet Witch, Black Widow's character. I don't know. It just nothing really seemed original to me in this.
There's even, was it The International? You guys remember that one with Naomi Watts? I think was in it, and Clive Owen. But like, it's been a long time since I've seen that. But I remember like thinking like, oh, there's some really cool stuff in this movie. But look at Red Sparrow, and it's like there's really nothing I can latch onto. And it's like, oh, this was really cool. Like there's no sense of urgency really ever. I mean, it was just kind of like characters getting drugged from one place to another, and it was just like the forward momentum was lacking quite a bit.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So
movie didn't make much of an impression on me, but
we like this movie quite a bit, eh?
Yes. What would you guys rate it?
5 out of 10. That's what I give it.
Okay, Miles. I'm guessing it's lower.
Like a roughly a 4.5.
Okay. We need to,
Miles is always a half point under us.
Yes, this has been very unintentional.
So I'm asking him for his score before I give mine.
I would give it, because there's nothing like, here's how I'm gonna justify my score, because there's nothing like criminally bad that this movie does. It's just doesn't really do anything good. So I will give it a 5.5 out of 10.
Oh my god!
Oh,
I was gonna give it a 6. Yeah, I think about the same. Like there's not really a lot to write home about in here, but I don't know. I know some people will enjoy it. What do you think people should go see this movie for? Like, what kind of person would want to go see this?
If you like espionage, I mean, it's an espionage movie, so that should be your number one clue.
Yeah, I guess
so. It definitely earns its R rating. There's a few moments of pretty brutal violence. It's full of sensual and sexual scenes. So, and we were kind of talking about this earlier. Like the trailers were really trying to hone that one in to get people to go see it. So if those things sound like your cup of tea, maybe like if you're a fan of the genre, I think there's like only the most hardcore like espionage genre fans will come away happy seeing this. But I feel like
Maybe.
even that's a stretch.
Yeah.
I mean, if we never get a Black Widow solo movie, I guess you could go ahead and see this movie. I was just kind of waiting for Nick Fury to show up at the end, or the Red Sparrow will show up in the Avengers or something like that.
Yeah, the Red Sparrow will return.
I don't know if the tones
in
match
Infinity
quite.
War.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess if you like really bad Russian accents and
Yeah. It's
a
like,
lot of sex and torture,
like 3/4 of the movie takes place in Moscow, and they're all speaking English.
Yeah.
yeah, well, I understand that. It's like,
I mean, I know it's like it's a Hollywood person. Even Schindler's List, everyone spoke English. So
I'm
take
glad
that
they
for
didn't
what
make Jennifer Lawrence speak Russian. That would have been that would have been too much, I think. But yeah, so
So
really,
Five
really
out of-
great marks from
yeah,
us.
5 out of 10 from Shane, 5.5 from myself, and 6 out of 10 from Preston.
Yep. All right. Now that we've thoroughly piqued your interest about this movie, and you know you're not going to go see it, or maybe you will. I don't know.
Yeah, don't listen to us. What do we know?
Better yet, just see us and see it and tell us how wrong we are.
Yeah, there you go. Tweet.
Or if you agree
send
with
your
us.
send your hate tweets to Ask in the Picture. We've each picked out a movie we're going to recommend this week from Netflix that you can stream if you are inclined to do so. These are all available to stream on Netflix at this time. So, Shane, what is your Netflix recommendation this week?
So, for those of you that love horror or those kind of movies, like I do, horror is my favorite genre, and I'm not afraid to say it. I found kind of like a hidden gem, I think, on Netflix. It was one of those ones that was just like briefly advertised on Netflix. I think it's only been on there for like a week or two at the most. So I gave it a watch, and it's called The Ritual. It stars Rafe Spall, or however you say his name, and a couple other British guys that I don't know of. If you watch any of those like British TV shows, I'm sure you know these people, and you're calling me an idiot right now. But Rafe Spall's the only guy that I know, and he's from like Life of Pi. He's the novelist from that movie. Anyways, it's about a couple of guys that are just traveling and sightseeing Europe, and one of their friends has the idea of going on like a nature hike through Scandinavia, and all of them kind of like immediately shut him down and say that's stupid and boring. But then he ends up dying like 5 minutes after that. It's actually in the trailer, so that's not really a spoiler. And so they kind of go on this hike anyways in honor of him. And since this is a horror movie, the woods turned out to be quite spooky, and things don't go as planned. It's pretty much just the way I best explain it is it's kind of like Blair Witch Project without the found footage aspect to it. It has like a very supernatural kind of vibe to it, being from the title, The Ritual, and all kinds of crazy stuff happened to him in the theater. But it also has some kind of like hidden messages in there that you take away from it, which makes it not just the slasher gore stupid horror movie that a lot of movies come out lately are. And then towards the end of it, the like final act of the movie, something happens and a thing comes out of nowhere, and it's just like on the edge of your seat until the movie's over kind of final act. It's awesome. Like it's one of those kind of horror movies that teases the creature throughout the entire movie, and then you finally like actually get a satisfying final act with it, and it's great.
And what's that one called again?
The Ritual.
The Ritual, now streaming on Netflix.
It's a Netflix original. So
Awesome. Miles?
All right. So the movie I picked came out in the year 2000. And a lot of you might have actually heard of it, even if you have not seen it. And I really hope you do. It is called Battle Royale. It's from Japan. So yes, there are subtitles.
Oh, that movie that ripped
I know
off
some
Hunger
people
Games.
do not like subtitles, so
it's,
let that sink in.
It's the most popular way people describe it, and it's a very accurate description, is that it's basically the R-rated version of the Hunger Games. But it plays out more of like a melodramatic like teen horror film rather than like the sci-fi action adventure of the Hunger Games. And it's basically the Japanese government in this world of the film like fears the youth, and and like all the progressive ideas they bring. And so they make all the ninth graders, they have a lottery, and all the ninth graders get sent to this island to basically battle to the death. They're all given collars that have like explosives built in, so that they can't just like run off and hide. And they're each given a random weapon, and then they're just sent out onto the island, and it's to go kill each other. I mean, and this thing is super violent. If you can't do like hard R violence, this is not the movie for you. Like just in its tone, it's just super dark, like twisted, sadistic. It's like a Quentin Tarantino wet dream. And
I was gonna say, it sounds like Kill Bill Part 1.
And it is an experience to watch, and it will be like imprinted in your brain long after you've seen it. So I highly recommend it, even if your reaction to it's negative, just for the horror of all the absurd violence in it. But it is an experience you will never forget, and so that's why I am recommending Battle Royale, which is available to watch right now from the comfort of your own home.
On Netflix.
Yes.
All right. And if you want a slightly less gruesome option than the two kind of horror-esque films that you've just been suggested, why not take a stroll down documentary lane? I know documentaries aren't for everybody, but Exit Through the Gift Shop is on Netflix right now, and it's probably my favorite documentary of all time. It was nominated for an Oscar a couple years ago, and it's all about street art. And it's kind of a documentary about a documentary that was kind of failing, and then someone else kind of came and brought this documentary kind of, I don't know if brought it back is the right term, but it kind of breathed new life into this guy's documentary. And it really creates an interesting, it asks the question, what is art and what makes art good? And always when I see this film, the first half makes me want to go out and make my own street art. And then by the end of the movie, I don't want to do any such thing at all. It's really curious that way. But it's just a fantastically produced film. It's got some great sequences. Very cool to see how people create street art. And there's much more to it than that. Great characters. And there's some questions as to how much of it is real versus orchestrated behind the scenes a little bit. But either way, it's a fantastic film, and I recommend it. So that's Exit Through the Gift Shop, and it's streaming now on Netflix.
Oh.
And with that, this has been In the Picture. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can tweet at us at AskInThePicture, and you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/InThePicture. I am Preston Fosbeck.
I am Shane Awesome Jones.
I am Miles Not Awesome Cardan.
Is that how you say your last name?
Yes.
Oh.
Good God.
What have we been doing?
Why didn't you say something like the first few times?
It's a French pronunciation. So I get tired of correcting people. I'm just like, oh, screw it. They can say what they want.
Wow.
I know what it is.
Okay. Well, there you go. I've been mispronouncing Miles Cardan's name for like 5 weeks now. And with that, we'll be here next week. You guys have a great night, and we'll see you later. Good night.
Bye.